Nobody cares about your podcast, okay?
Oh,
That's been said by
that
one.
is so true. It's not
Yeah.
even
oh,
funny.
oh no. I struck a sore spot.
No. All right. Well, on that note, welcome to the Third Wheel Podcast.
Wait,
What?
you introduced last time.
Oh yeah, you're right. Plus, we didn't clap.
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Welcome to Third Wheel Podcast.
At night.
I'm your host, Darci.
And I'm Caleb. Darci is back with not a heavy-hitting, gut-wrenching. I wasn't done. We're laughing again. Isn't that great? We're happy to be here. Check out this mug. I pointed out to the audience that when I first had it was a look third.
Maybe.
So this was our first date, me and Maddie, right, long time ago, and they apply fire to the glass and it turns it darker. Well, I didn't get the text. You're supposed to do 2 layers with paint, and I didn't get enough layers on the letters before they closed. But it says third wheel, and then same thing on the back, not enough paint.
It looks like it says Erd wheel, but your E is backwards. That does not look like a 3.
My handwriting's not great. And then the at night's in all black, which of course you can't see. So, yep, terrible craftsmanship on my end. I am not an artist, as y'all might have seen if you subscribed when we painted each other.
Oh, God.
Hey, how'd you like our short, by the way, with the pirate wheel? I heard you liked it.
I loved it.
You're a fan,
was
right?
Funny,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So Maddie shot it, but it was my idea. And I improv the dialogue. You know what I mean? So I think I did pretty good. Like I got some creative stuff in there. Got the juices flowing. It's like Captain Marquez. That was me. Pretty cool. I think. So
Where did you get Captain Marquez from? That's what I want to know.
I didn't want to say my last name, and then it just came in. Like I said, I improv'd it. And we only did 1 take. So it was too late to go back and change it.
I don't know how she didn't lose it at your booty wagging.
Oh no, she turned off the mic audio because she was laughing. Okay. As soon as I started spinning it, she was like, and just ruined it. So I was like, babe, you're gonna have to turn off the sound right there. So that's when the music kicked in. It was pretty good, I thought. And then I was sitting here playing games. I was like, we need something a little bit extra. So I took the mic and I said, subscribe to the Third Wheel. I'm playing Mortal Kombat. Subscribe to the Third Wheel Podcast, where you're gonna be the third wheel in our conversation. And then we put it in there. So pretty good.
Nice.
I got good ideas. They're in here. So it didn't do great view wise though,
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I know.
I thought it was so funny.
Yeah. I mean, YouTube's so weird. They want to be more like TikTok, but they just won't share the love. They won't let the views. What are you smiling for?
I don't know. You just really gotta earn it.
Come here, TikTok. Get on my knees for you. So, where have you been, Darci, this whole time? Okay, yeah, you were here for the last couple episodes, but before that, you were taking
like 4.
You were taking a long hiatus. The heck, man? Did we talk about it last time?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, never mind then.
You gave me crap for it when on my first one back.
Well, see that
it's because I had that 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. schedule, and you work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so when you were getting out of work, I was going into work, and when I was getting out of work, you were going to bed. And yeah,
I'm hearing excuses.
It wasn't working out. I was working like 6 days a week too.
Yeah. Well, luckily,
I'm still tired, but
luckily that's done. Last night, guys, I slept with my CPAP, and I kept it on the whole time, except when I woke up at 2 a.m. I took it off to applaud myself and say, "Good job, me," and then I went back to sleep without putting it back on. And I was very conscious for that one. So, okay,
that's funny.
Yeah, pretty
Just
good.
Your sleep thoughts to be like, "Good job," and then fold it up and set it nicely to the side.
I don't pat myself on the back enough. You know what I mean? I'm not nice enough to myself. All right, I need to change that. I need to get happy with me. Okay, you know what I mean? Yeah, pretty nice. All right, so on the agenda today, we're back on this book. So it didn't turn out. I was trying to do like the next couple chapters with Heather, but we haven't really hung out like that in a while. And also, I just kind of quit reading. So we're trying to get back on track with that. So today we're covering chapter 2 of Marry Him, The Case for Settling for Mr. Good Enough. The good news about today is Darcy, one, hasn't seen that episode, and two, hasn't read the book either. So we're starting brand new. I encourage you, Darcy, and our audience to go back and listen to that episode. That way, when we talk about the book again.
Is it posted already?
No, but it will be tonight. No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I think we're going to post the one we shot today. I'm going to give it to Shaps and say, hey,
Post it tonight since it's fresh. Okay.
yeah, very fresh. I was like, hey, I'm gonna tell him, hey, do this today, please. If not, I'm going to do it. So.
Okay.
He's behind on posting episodes anyway, so
Okay.
it hopefully wouldn't be too that big of a switch for him. Okay, so Darcy, have I told you about this book at all?
You brought up a long time ago, and then I think we talked about that concept from the book where it was like, the lady on the elevator and each floor and level is like, a man. But if you go up to level 2, it's better, and then he has a job, and then she keeps going up. And then the person was like, just to prove this isn't sexist, we did this on men as well. And they're satisfied at level 1.
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. So I gave you that joke, which wasn't mine. I'm not a joke thief, but yes. So you're familiar with the concept. So in this book, again, for our audience, because it's been a while. Well, I guess not for y'all, but it's been a while. So this is written by a woman, so nobody claims sexism. And she basically single in her 30s. I can't remember if she was almost 40. Let's see. But it's by Lori Gottlieb. She wrote this book because she was later in her years and she's single and she's wondering why. Well, once she identified why, she started looking at women as a whole and she started saying, man, there's a lot of 30-year-old single people. So what she did was she brought in people in their 20s and asking them, hey, what are your standards? And she's finding people in their 20s like her were really high for no reason, essentially, like no real reason. So we get back to, she pulls in another study group from people in her 30s, and they're like, yeah, those people are crazy, and we were those people. That's why we're still single. And there was a lot of insight into like, okay, well, the guys you passed up in your 20s, how come you didn't go back to them and ask them out? And she's like, because they moved on already. They're married, and we waited too long. We kept waiting for this perfect guy or this guy who had this, in our mind, we had this criteria, we had this list of things we wanted, and they never showed up. And so now it's like, yeah, what would have been a deal breaker in my 20s, hey, he's balding. That would have been a big deal breaker. Now it's like, man, we'd be lucky if he had hair at all. The guys that are left over in their 30s. So anyway, so chapter 2, the romantic comedy that predicted my future. This is me and Darcy's first time reading a book, disclaimer, together, essentially. We've read articles for sure, and there have been several stop points. But I'm going to ask Darcy that if there's something that, hey, I have a thought now, you can go ahead and interrupt me. And I'm going to do my best not to just read the book verbatim, but to summarize and just kind of go from there. So, okay. Let's see. She brings up Miss Gottlieb in the first part of chapter 2. She says, I first saw the movie Broadcast News. She was 20 years old at the time, and she did not know that it would basically be a summary of her life later on. So she watched this movie when she's in her 20s. It's about a girl named Holly Hunter. Holly Hunter's the actress. She plays a girl named Jane, a single network news producer whose best friend is her talented and witty colleague, Erin, played by Albert Brooks. So Erin in the movie is her best friend. They're talking all the time. She goes to work with him. He's funny. But the only problem with him is she doesn't feel a spark. She does feel a spark for Tom. I think he is the handsome but shallow newscaster played by William Hurt. Tom, who's all about style over substance, stands for everything that Jane hates, but Jane's drawn to him anyway. In the end, she realizes that she can't be with either one because Tom, he's a douche, and she doesn't want to date a douche. So, no. Erin, she doesn't feel fireworks. So she says no to him as well, right?
Yeah.
So why are you laughing?
It's just the stupid spark thing.
What's wrong with the spark?
I don't know. It's nice if you have a spark, but to see a crappy dude and have a good dude and go the other way just because of that spark fireworks.
Yeah.
It's ugh, I roll. Ugh. Whatever.
Okay. So we know where Darcy's at. The movie's not over yet.
Sorry.
All right, so that's
you highlighted the sparks of fireworks, and I was like, give me a break. Yeah.
Okay, me and my husband don't have a spark. It's overrated.
That flame is long died. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the end, she realizes she can't compromise her values to be with Tom or with Aaron. She loves Aaron, but she doesn't feel any fireworks. All right. So we've all been there, haven't we? She says.
No.
Jane's dilemma: the choice between fireworks and friendship. All right. It says that may seem age old, but it's not. The internal struggle might be, but for the freedom for women to choose, not just one or the other, but neither, is relatively new. Instead of picking Aaron or Tom, Jane decides to wait for Mr. Right, who incidentally never shows up. So at the end of the movie, they do a 7 years later. She runs into Aaron, I believe. Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say. In the movie, we see these characters 7 years later. She says Jane vaguely mentions she's dating a guy. So then, Miss Gottlieb comes in and says, so what? Like, she's dating a guy 7 years later. How many guys has she dated? What are the odds this one's going to work out? But, like, she's mad.
Why are you using so many air quotations?
What do you want
Your
from me?
entire sentence.
I'm having a great time on this show with you.
She met this guy 7 years later.
What do you want from me?
I don't know.
I'm trying
It
to
was
put
just
some.
cracking
I'm
me
trying to
up.
put some oomph into this. This is my audition for Audible. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm getting into the character here. I'm getting into method acting. All right. So. Okay. Jane vaguely mentions she's dating a guy, but so what? What are the odds that this relationship will work out, given that she's probably been in several relationships in the past 7 years that seemed promising but didn't pan out? Besides, who's to say that this guy is better suited to her than Aaron? Okay, that's a fair question. Her emotional and intellectual soulmate. Meanwhile, we learn that Aaron is married with a son and Tom is engaged. All right.
Oh, so both are off the table
Yeah,
now.
but and that yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's what her study was finding last chapter was like, well, she's talking to the 30-year-old people that are still single, and she's like, so how come you didn't go back to the other guys that you passed up? And they're like, well, they got married. So then she watched this movie, and in her 20s, what she says later is like, well, that's sexist. Like, why can't the strong, independent woman say no to both and go find Mr. Right? Like, come on. Like, why can't the women be strong and independent? She didn't know that this was like a very realistic movie where 7 years later, she's still dating a guy. And everyone else is like, Tom's engaged, probably to someone he loves. It doesn't say. Or Aaron, he's moved on and married because Aaron's a good guy. And women later on decide, here's what I actually want in a soulmate, right? Here's what I actually want to be with. So Aaron found the right person and has a son. But Jane, still looking and waiting for Mr. Right. I'm dating a guy, And then like the author highlights, so she's probably dated plenty of guys since then,
Right.
So what are the odds this one's going to be any better than the other 7 years worth of dating? Any thoughts on that before I keep going?
On that whole section or the
In general.
guide currently. I mean,
Anything.
I don't know. I find it so funny that people take so long to learn that lesson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I had learned that lesson by the time I was like 21.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, but by 21, you had so much go on in your life. Your criteria by 21 was he can't beat me. He can't cheat on me. You know what I mean? Most women don't have that. I have dated people who act like Jane. My very first girlfriend said, there's someone better. And so I'm leaving you. All right. So people that haven't been through anything, that's how they talk. So you get to they're almost 30, and then they have all this regret. You know what I mean? And it's like I've dated people in their 40s who were still single. Okay, I wasn't a homewrecker, but she was like, yeah. I mean, I've turned down many great guys in my life. And then she's
but
like,
there was like okay, so obviously my standards were low, but there were times I went on dates with people that were a good guy. There was this one guy that we didn't really date. We were talking and then he moved back and we were talking, but I didn't want anything serious and like just all of this different kind of stuff. And I remember I'd sit there and I'd be like, okay, I know there's better for me out there. and not saying like that guy was like he's not good enough, but like, I knew there was something that would fit better
Yeah.
with my personality type, with the things I desired, with my future, all of that. And when I met Paul, I knew that that was him.
Mm-hmm.
Now we had like a very interesting, way that we knew that, but I think even aside from that, that's something I would have pursued. I would just been a lot more hesitant. But I don't know, like I don't know, when a good guy came along, like I knew it.
Yeah.
And I was very quick to be like, okay, let me scoop him up before somebody else does.
I'd have to go back and read the last chapter, but she was highlighting like, okay, so what is good enough, and like what's considered settling, what's considered lowering your standards, that type of stuff. I'd have to go back and read it and or listen to the episode with Heather because it's been a while since we shot it. But yeah, where's the balance? Like, because you knew Paul was good, but you're also against sparks, so like I don't know. It would have been helpful had you been here for the last one, and then we could kind
And
of.
there's nothing like against sparks, but if that's what you're relying on for your relationship, I mean, a spark is always going to die, whether it's for the rest of your lives or whether it's for that night that you get in the argument
Yeah.
or whether it's for, you know what I mean?
I won't say this. Okay, look, I will say, me and Maddie haven't been together for a year yet, so obviously I don't know anything about the spark dying. I will say the initial, like, oh my God, she texted me back. Oh my gosh, like, is she going to talk to me today? That part's like gone, obviously. The
Right.
nervousness, the is she into me or not, the excitement of like, this is something new. That's gone, right? Because it's not new anymore. But like I know there's much more to love than like oh my gosh, this is so exciting, the thrill, like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to love than that. But for me, it's like I guess I would say people confuse like the spark for like a connection. I think people confuse that. The connection with me and Maddie's still there,
Right.
and that's how I would describe us. There's still that deep connection where when we talk about our day, we still connect in a way that I wouldn't have connected with anybody else talking about our day. Where she's saying something funny that happened, and to me, it's hilarious. I'm laughing really hard, and then I tell my story, and she laughs really hard.
Okay. What's your definition of spark? Maybe this will help.
For me, it's connection.
So spark is connection.
Yeah,
Okay. To me, spark is an exhilarating excitement.
yeah, and that's where it gets confused.
Right.
I think.
And so when I hear the word like, oh, we don't have that spark, those fireworks,
Yeah.
I'm thinking exhilaration.
Yep.
I'm thinking momentary, instantaneous, like excitement.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't stay there.
No.
No matter who you are.
And women usually get that for the guy that's hard to get.
Yeah.
The guy that's not returning your calls, the guy that's playing hard to get, the guy that's blowing you off. That's where you get your connection from. I know guys who have the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say their names, but I know guys who actively pursue someone who is not interested and want to change their minds, and they're treating it like, okay, I'll just get to work harder and change her mind and that kind of stuff. That's what they're attracted to, something they really can't have, at least initially. You know what I mean? And that's like you said, that's where women get that. They're like, well, he's so mysterious. He challenges me. But really, he's just blowing you off, you know? I think that's what women confuse as spark with connection. I don't think women quite know what that spark means.
Mm.
For me, there were plenty of women I dated before I met Maddie, but we didn't have that connection. And that's why I ended things. That's what happened with the girl in 2020. We dated for 3 months, and there was no connection, zero. That's my definition of a spark.
Yeah. For me, it's like, because there's been lots of people I had that like spark with, where it was like, it was
Yeah.
exciting, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is new,
Mhm.
and like, wow, he's so cute, and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it gives me butterflies in my stomach whenever he winks at me across the room. Like I've had that plenty of times before. But, like eventually it's just like it dies down. It's not as exciting. It's not as fun.
Yeah.
Maybe you still enjoy it when he winks at you across the room, but it's not the same like,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I think of with spark. And so like
Yeah.
if you're talking connection, I mean, like I tell people all the time, I still feel like me and Paul are in our honeymoon phase.
That's what. I would agree with you. And like, okay, to get not too far off topic, like for For me and Maddie, I still feel like we're in our honeymoon phase too, where I'm not sick of her. I love talking with her still when she
Right.
wants to. Like, I'm still in that. You know what I mean? And it's been well over 3 months when usually that would die down, your honeymoon phase where you can do no wrong.
Right.
Obviously, I know we could both do wrong in an argument or something. Sheesh, we've had stuff happen. You know what I mean? But I still none of that's changed how I felt, and I still get excited on date nights, and I get excited to hang out with her and all that kind of that hasn't gone away because
Right.
that connection's so strong.
Right.
But that's what women, I guess, confuse. They don't spark to them doesn't mean connection. It just means like something else that causes
Passion.
that causes them to pass up really good guys.
Yeah.
So, let's see. A prime example. We did a whole episode on this person, Brittany. I think I said her name in the episode where she was coming, trying to get me to change my mind. I just wasn't interested because there was no connection there. I talk a lot, and then I get done telling her a story, and she doesn't really give me anything back, and I'm just not feeling it. You know what I mean? And it might be bad to say, where I was just like, I just feel like I could have done so much better, and not so much in a physical way. I just meant like connection wise, like if she could give me something back where I feel like, man, we're having a great time together, whether we're talking or hanging out somewhere, we're having a great time. And I just wasn't getting that with her. So, and that's why I didn't feel a connection, So anyway, cool. We're on that. In a couple of minutes, we have to reset the camera. Okay. It's a sad ending, but when I was 20, I didn't question whether Jane made the right decision. Jane ended up unmarried and childless. Well, I chalked that up to misogyny. The director's misogynistic. I know I said that already, but that was a while ago. I'm completely embarrassed by this now, but I actually had conversations with my female friends about how Hollywood wasn't ready to show a strong woman, standing her ground, without somehow punishing her for it. Never occurred to us that this was simply a likely outcome to Jane's choice, that she'd end up single after 7 years. In fact, many of us went through our 20s and 30s making the very same choice, Prince Charming or nobody, and ending up single. What my friends and I called misogyny turned out to be reality. So skipping down a bit in the book, let's see. I said this already. She said the people that we passed up in our 20s are already married, so it's not like we could have called Aaron back, 2 decades later, the saddest moment for me was when a heartbroken Aaron predicts the consequences of Jane's rejecting him. So this is a line from the movie. Aaron tells Jane before she decides she doesn't want to be with him. He says, 6 years from now, I'll be back here with my wife and 2 kids, and I'll see you, and one of my kids will say, Dad, who is that? And I'll say, it's not nice to point at single fat women. Now my heart broke for Jane because I knew how truthful Aaron's cutting remark would be. So then another movie. I'm not going to waste too much time. The main one was that first one. There's another movie where this girl is chasing this guy. Let's see. It's called When Harry Met Sally, which everyone's heard of, right? Have you? Okay.
No.
You're still young, kid. All right. Okay, so this one romanticizes, and you've seen this movie at least, like the trope of like, hey, the guy I'm chasing isn't good for me. It's really the guy who's been with me the whole time. He's really my soulmate.
Yeah.
So she gets with her best friend, and that's the real love story right there. Is like, wow, the person I wanted was right next to me all along.
Is this why everyone's weird about our friendship?
I guess.
Because of all the movies we grew up with where it was like, it was
Yeah.
my best friend the whole time.
It's like they just picture it in their head. We're laughing on our show, and then we just like look at each other. You know what I mean? And then we just turn. Yeah, I know, right? I'm getting weird just trying to act it out.
I know. You like made like glimpse eye contact with me, and I was like, no.
And then we lovingly and longingly turn the cameras off, but we accidentally leave the audio on, and that's the comedy part.
Yeah.
All right, so she brings up that movie, and she starts talking about how like let's see, that movie made her more so. Again, she watched it in her 20s, and she said like this movie sucks too because why did the person in When Harry Met Sally have to lower her standards? Why did she have to lower it to the guy next to her? So once again, she sees a trope, and that it would, if she had done that in her actual life, been with a guy who was like she had a connection with, she wouldn't be single now. But in her 20s, she was too like dumb to see it. So the next section titled Bridezilla.
Wait, we didn't make commentary on the best friend.
Yeah, we did. Talked about us. We made it about ourselves.
Yeah, that's fair. I
What
don't
were you
know,
gonna say?
because like I've always heard people say like marry your best friend, marry your best friend. No, the person you marry like should be your best friend,
Yeah.
but don't marry your best friend because my standards for best friends are, as you can tell, really low. No.
You hear that?
But like
And
when I'm
mm,
looking, when I connect with friends, it's so much different than like what a romantic interest could possibly be.
yeah.
And I remember even I did date one of my best friends one time, and we were 16, so we confused the love we had for each other for being in love with each other, which is very different.
Very different.
Um,
Absolutely.
but like at the time we had confused that, and it was awkward. It was awkward dating.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, I don't know, was it cuz we tried again when we were adults too, cuz we were like,
my
"Oh,
God.
we were stupid teenagers, you know,
We
like
weren't mature,
You're
but
right. Yeah,
now
we
we're
weren't mature, so we'll be different this time." And it was the same thing. It was just awkward. And it was like, "No, you're my friend." You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
I don't get how people can say like marry your best friend, cuz I'm like, mm-mm. Like, do you know how awkward that would be?
I agree. I really do agree with you. Because I'm putting it in my eyes,
Yeah.
and I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I
But
can't.
even if you think about like different best friends that you grew up with, or
Yeah.
that, you know, in your teenage years or something, you know, like
No
no.
thanks.
Yeah.
I'm a pass on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But so in the movie trope, do you not see those characters? I know the characters, and that's a point she brings up. But those characters, can you not see them making it work? Because it is someone who you can sit on the phone with forever and giggle and laugh with. Do you think it's impossible to make that connection? Do you think the movie just gets it wrong?
I think that if you go in and that's like an underlying connection that's been there the whole time that you've been ignoring,
Yeah.
sure. If that's something where, you know, it's popped in your head before and you're like, "Oh, no, no, not them." And then it comes up, yes. If you have always been in the mindset of being friends and being best friends and that's never crossed either of your minds, how?
Yeah.
How? Like I just it wouldn't work in at least in my brain. I
Yeah.
don't know.
All right, that's a good difference. If you became best friends with the intent of like this probably could go somewhere, sure.
Either the intent or even if that wasn't your intent, but maybe you were like, "Oh, he's kind of cute," but like, "Oh, no, he's my best friend."
Yeah.
"Oh, well, you know, he is nice to me." "No, he's my best friend."
Mm,
You know, like then I could see like that switch happening.
yeah.
But if that thought never crosses your mind, whether you went in with a different intention or what, like if that
Yeah.
thought doesn't even cross, I don't see how you could cross that line with each other.
Okay. I like that a lot. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
All right. Cool. Bridezilla. Actually, before we do that, let's reset the camera.
Okay, can I go to the bathroom? Since we're resetting it.
Clap again. 3, 2, 1. Let's try that again. 3, 2, 1. All right. There we go. Look at that. All right. Did we talk about Bridezilla yet? No, we did not. I remember.
No, you mentioned it, but we haven't gotten into
I
it
left
yet.
my coffee over here. Sorry. I know.
Now for a momentary sponsor.
It was funny the first time you did it.
Huh?
You've lost your edge, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Your jokes fall flat,
I couldn't think of anything to say.
other than the rehashing.
Yeah.
All right, Bridezilla. She talks about all these TV shows where they're talking about the perfect wedding, the perfect dream. Like, you can all think of this. Like, think of stuff like The Bachelor. Think of 90 Day Fiancé, all the fun ones with all the drama in
Love
it, right?
is blind.
Love is Blind, and it's a fairy tale story.
That's funny. Have you kept up on the storyline between Chelsea and
No.
whoever it was that picked her?
Go ahead, why?
Well, maybe that could be a fun podcast.
All right.
It's a little outdated now, but
Well, it sounds like there's still recent developments. All right. So she says Eliza Albert, whose own wedding was featured in the New York Times, knows this all too well. As she put it, my Times wedding announcement read, as so many do, like a smug sigh of relief. What followed, though, was a train wreck of a relationship. She was separated within a year and divorced shortly thereafter. In her essay in The Modern Jewish Girl's Guide to Guilt, Albert describes her whirlwind romance leading up to the Times announcement, the fabulous and moving wedding ceremony, and the post-wedding reality that set in as she and her husband realized they were always and were incompatible when it came to marriage. It just might be helpful if movies made sequels showing the couple's marriages. Albert wishes that wedding columns would print divorce announcements as follow-ups to all the enviable
my
romantic
God.
courtship stories. At least then, she believes, single people would have a better idea of what love is and isn't. I'm inclined to agree because most of those shows, with the exception of ones like 90 Day Fiancé, like those are train wrecks the whole time.
Right.
And you feel bad for the people that buy into that stuff. But essentially, like, you know, think of like a Disney, think all the way back to Disney movies. I think Disney movies are actually what causes the most people to have unrealistic expectations.
I've always said that. I was like, it's Disney's fault.
Yeah.
And then the other thing,
Disney's the reason my
So-
first girlfriend broke up with me.
everybody used to give me crap for liking guys older than me. And so I would always tell them it's Disney's fault because whenever we would watch movies about teenagers being in love, they'd use fully grown men to represent these teenage boys.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, everything is Disney's fault.
Yeah, I know what you mean now. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. Like, those movies end when the credits start rolling, and it usually ends on the big kiss during the wedding or the kiss before they profess love and they ride off into the sunset. Any movie, Disney or otherwise, TV series like The Bachelor, like, do you watch The Bachelor at all, ever?
No.
Like, how do those end? Where they propose, right, or something?
Yeah.
You know, they end at the peak.
Like who they choose or
Yeah,
something.
it
and then
ends on
and then
the-
the person they choose, I think, also has to choose them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And of course, those are fake too. So like once they
Right.
yell cut, then they don't. You know, those people don't love each other, right?
Yeah.
But those are the downfall of relationships. And she's like, I wish. Again, I know I just read it, but she's like, I wish that they would show a year later or the divorce announcement showing like, hey, that was all a sham or whatever. You know, like to give people more realistic expectations. But that's not what sells. I would disagree though, because like I would totally read I'd care more about the divorce than I would the marriage. You know,
I want to hear all the tea.
I want all the
Yeah.
tea. Yeah. All right. She has a point. I went through my 20s and 30s saying that I wanted true love, but how could I know what that was? Married people rarely talk about the reality of their marriages with their single friends, and the only love stories most of us see on the screen are the kind where once a couple finally kisses after working out their conflict, it's a collective orgasm for the audience.
Why'd you look at me
I
like
just-
that when you said it?
I wasn't ready to say that word.
That's probably gonna have to get censored out.
That's fine. Right. I'll make it easy for you, Shaps. After like a collective or beep. We shouldn't be so in sync like that on camera. People get the wrong idea.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. After that, our interest in them deflates, which I agree. Nobody cares after the kiss, right? The story's over. We're left to assume that these couples go on to live happily ever after.
Kind of like, did you ever watch Hitch?
I love that movie.
There we go.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole time they're like trying to be romantic, and then some stuff gets in the way, and
Yeah.
now they're all falling apart. And it like very much so it ends at their wedding.
Yeah.
It doesn't show them like go
No.
on. And now Meet the Fockers was a perfect example of kids
Yeah.
and marriage and
Yeah.
in-laws and the craziness of life. I love Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, Little Fockers, all of that. That is such a funny movie.
Yeah. So,
And it's real.
yeah, I would agree with you. All right. So she brings up this statement by some experts from their book, Beyond Success and Failure, Ways to Self-Reliance and Maturity. They say, we can only guess at the extent of it when we realize the number of love stories that are ground out and consumed each month for books, periodicals, TV, radio, movies, and the like. People would not buy such stuff if they did not believe in its probability. We find no such sale for fairy stories which are no more fantastic. So the stuff wouldn't sell if it didn't have the fake stuff in it, or if they didn't cut it off at the part where real life sets in. What's it called? There's a
Marriage Story movie.
That's a good
Is that
movie.
what you? I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it's really real.
It is very real.
Yeah.
Yep, very much so.
And like
It's about divorce.
I feel and I feel like that sold insanely
Mhm.
because like everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, something real."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, the non-problem problem. This is where this should be easier to talk about now. These days in the movies or in real life, there's not a lot of external conflict to overcome in order for two people to get together. It's less about class or religion or geography or valid value differences than it is about the inner conflict of not knowing whether this person is the one. So what does that mean? She's saying essentially the movies make it so there's all this outward conflict of like, oh my gosh, I love him, but their parents don't approve or, something dumb. She's like, but really the realistic conflict, not about class, religion. Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes it is the parents getting in the way. That's my last big relationship before Maddie. But most of the time it's an inner conflict between us about like, okay, do I love this person or don't I? Is there a connection or a spark or isn't there? Okay. In other words, nowadays you don't fall in love with Romeo and say that the relationship is doomed because he's a Montague. Instead, you start dating Romeo and overlook the fact that he's a Montague. But the second he spends too much time playing video games or he forgets the name of your best friend from high school, you wonder if you should try to find someone more mature or more attentive. Instead of falling for a guy and discovering a seemingly insurmountable practical obstacle, like, will there be a civil war if you get together? And she's talking about Romeo and Juliet again. And that's the conflict was like, if we get together, our families are going to go to war. You know what I mean? Like, that's not realistic, right? That's not the issue. It's we fall for a guy and then create our own seemingly insurmountable obstacles as to why we can't be with him. So examples of that. So she's like, okay, we make it more drastic than it actually needs to be. Okay, she says like, he's not funny enough. He has a tendency to get stressed out during tax season, stuff like that. It used to be that lovers knew what they wanted. It used to be that lovers knew they wanted to be together but couldn't. Now it's that lovers can be together but aren't sure they want to. And then we complain that we can't find a suitable spouse. Okay. I was starting to realize that despite everything I believed on an intellectual level, despite the strong, sensible person I thought I was, deep down I had a classic Cinderella complex. I expected that, as the famous song goes, someday my prince would come and thrill me forevermore. It never occurred to me to trade those impractical glass slippers for shoes I could actually wear. All right. Okay, so you probably relate to this. She brings up a bunch of old shows that you might not have seen. I'm sure you've heard of some of them. But on the single gal shows, Ally McBeal, Caroline in the City, Friends, Sex in the City, Grey's Anatomy.
I love Grey's Anatomy. I'm watching it for like the 8th time right now. Paul hates it.
Yeah, I can't imagine why. She says viewers would tune in to watch a woman date a guy, only to talk endlessly with her girlfriends about why he's not right for her, and why maybe she should look for someone better. There's always the assumption that she'd end up with her true love in the end, that there was a single soulmate and therefore a clear right choice when it came to a partner. These characters worried about making a mistake because there seemed to be only one chance at getting it right. Ooh, we can talk about that. So they'd better be darn sure this guy was it. Nobody seemed to be saying there might be lots of right guys in real life. Of course, each partner has his pleasures and his drawbacks, but we rarely see real life played out on screen. Okay, so, yeah, go ahead. You got something you want to say?
So, going over like Mr. Right, a big thing I hear is soulmate.
Yep.
We get told about our soulmate
all
the time, and it insinuates this idea in our heads that there's one guy out there in the 7.8 billion people in the world or whatever it is that we're actually meant to be with. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to unrealistic expectations set by movies and Disney and all that kind of stuff. But in my experience, the kind of connection I want in a partner I have had with several people before Maddie. There's nothing special about me or you or her or Paul that doesn't exist in another person. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of me's and you's out there.
I don't know. I think we're a pretty unique quad.
We are unique, but it's not impossible to find other us.
Right.
You know what I mean? They exist. Everyone who says I'm never going to find somebody like him or her again is wrong. It feels that way. especially if they were the first person that made you feel that way. But as you start dating more, you start to find those same connection, that spark in other people. You'll find like, okay, he wasn't the only one. Again, that doesn't mean there's a perfect soulmate out there, because everyone you date has their drawbacks. But it's more so like you need to start realizing what actual drawbacks could hinder a relationship. You know, is he bad with money? Is he in a ton of financial debt because he has a gambling problem? Is he an alcoholic? Is he violent when he drinks? Stuff like that. But again, everyone has their drawbacks, but there's no one person. I don't believe in the one guy or
Right.
girl. That there isn't one. There's plenty of people who you can have that connection with. I've had it with several people. And unfortunately, the drawbacks were big enough to where the relationship didn't work out, and we didn't go any further than dating. But I did. There, you are able to find that connection again with someone else, because they exist. It takes a while sometimes. Between the last girl that I had a connection with and Maddie, there was a good almost 4-year gap. But I found her. You know what I mean? Like, they exist. It's not the end of the world when people break up. But there's that pressure of like, I have to find the right guy. If I do it wrong, and this is why people freak out and they say, well, they'll break off an engagement or break up before the wedding or get divorced because they're like, my life's over if I'm with the wrong one, if I'm with the wrong person, and that pressure gets to them, and the women or the guy leave. But how do you feel about that pressure of like, I only have one chance. It has to be the right person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's dumb.
Yeah.
I think as long as you're able to support each other and help each other grow.
Yeah.
Like whenever I was talking with you and Brittany and was like, hey, you guys aren't bad people and you believe in the same things, like Christianity wise, but just because you're two good people doesn't mean you're like right for each other, because like you're just going to remain stagnant. Like neither one of you are going to be able to appropriately push the other one to step outside of their comfort zone in a way that's healthy for them. Like you guys would have had to completely change every part of both of your personalities in order to make that work.
Right. I would have had to be bored mindless and be okay with being bored forever
Right.
the rest of my life.
Right.
Yep.
And yeah, and so it's just like
On her end, though, she would have gotten to the gym. And I can say that very confidently.
And so as long as it's someone that will help you continue to grow, and it's someone that will support you, and as well reversed, I don't know. I mean, it's not as complicated as people make it, I feel like.
I agree with that.
But at the same time, like, it is kind of complicated because there's a lot of pieces of crap out there. So
It's scary because
Right.
you think, because marriage is supposed to be so permanent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much like that nowadays because everyone's getting a divorce. You know what I mean? Everybody, like my parents, well, okay, I can't pull your parents or Maddie's parents because they're still together. But, there's a lot of people are getting divorced. A lot of my friends that are my age are getting divorced because it just didn't work. They weren't compatible. They got married too young. People changed. Someone decided to live in depression and not do anything about it, so it just ruined the marriage. All sorts of stuff. Maybe they're different people. There's a term grew apart. I think it's more so, I would chalk that up to you got married too young, and then as you finally realized who you were, who you became, you weren't compatible. You know what I mean? And you aren't who you would have picked at that age, as opposed to when you were like 20 or 19
Right.
getting married. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's, like I said, in my past, I dated good guys, but, like, it would have there would have been too many, like, things that we would have stood on opposite ends about that would have been really important life decisions.
Not secret things, but just things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like how to raise kids.
Yeah.
One of the guys I dated that was a really good guy was Muslim. So if we have kids, do we raise them Muslim? Do we raise them Christian?
Yeah.
And that's going to be a fight over which way they get raised, or do you
Wait,
raise them
what do you mean?
open-minded?
What do you mean you can't marry him and change his mind? What are you talking about? He'll change his mind later. You just
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah,
persistent.
yeah.
God.
And so, it's things that was like too big of a deal to where later on in life, it may have not bothered us then, but as the problems came up and it was like, what do we do about this? And at the same time we answer, but they're opposite answers and we look at each other like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, let's see. I'm going to make sure I highlight everything I want to talk about. I think I had to grow out of this too. When I was with the girl I didn't feel a connection with, not Brittany, but the other one in 2020, I felt that pressure of like, if I marry her, I'm stuck with her. Because in my mind, divorce isn't an option. I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to divorce her just because we don't talk so much. You know what I mean? But I can break up with her while we're in the dating phase because we don't talk so much. But for me, I was scared about marrying somebody who I didn't have a connection with. I was like, I can't just do that to my life and have someone that I don't connect with the rest of my life and be married to that.
Right.
But I see a lot of guys do that. Now, mainly it's because they get them pregnant and then they marry them and they're like, man, I'm miserable. I sat with a guy, they had their kid. I didn't sit with them, but I watched them and they came in and they were not talking. She's eating and I could tell she just wasn't a talker. And I saw it in his eyes. There was a glaze of like, he is just shutting his brain off because they just do not connect. But there's a baby sitting right next to them, you know? I was like, oh, poor guy. Like, that's what I would have been had I stayed with that one girl. But that pressure of like, I can't, there's only one. I have to get it right. I have to do it right or I'm going to be unhappy the rest of my life. I understand that pressure. And that's what a lot of people, not just women, people do that to themselves. They put a lot of pressure to like, if he's not my soulmate, then I'm stuck. I'm going to be unhappy the rest of my life. Did you ever feel that way about anything? Any guy? This will be my life if I marry him.
Well, I remember, I was very much so in love with Isaiah. And I knew he wasn't right for me because he was a piece of crap. But as far as like I don't know, I just had such a hard time like envisioning my future that I never really got to that point.
Yeah.
I'm a very like rare case scenario. But because of all the trauma in my life, all the death I experienced, all of that, like to me, nothing I couldn't see outside of 2 weeks from now, so me dating somebody was me being in the here and now. And I wanted to get married and I wanted to have kids. But when I talked about that, it was like an unrealistic fantasy for that to even happen because either I wasn't going to make it that long or they weren't or da-da-da.
Yeah.
So I never really got caught up in this like, oh, is he like the one? Is he the guy? I always knew when they definitely weren't.
Yeah.
But I didn't get caught up in this whole like, I need to find the right one.
Yeah.
I just like I wanted a good guy. I wanted somebody that would push me outside my comfort zones in a good way and cause me to grow.
Yeah.
And I knew when I found it. And with Paul, I've talked about it a couple times. Like there was a lot of times my emotions like were not there.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't feeling it, but like I knew he was good. I knew he was, someone that would really be what I needed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Like a page left.
I don't know. Did I answer that question?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. No, just checking your brain on that. Reality shows. The closest we get to real life are so-called reality shows like The Bachelor. It's telling that the audience was horrified when Brad, one season's Bachelor, whittled his choices down to 2 women, picked Deanna, then changed his mind before he was supposed to propose to her. The audience was incensed. What was wrong with Deanna? They wanted to know. She was charming, family-oriented, smart, and attractive. Who did Brad think he was letting her go? But Brad just wasn't feeling it. If a woman turns down a perfectly acceptable partner because she just isn't feeling it, we support her. We tell her to go find true love. We say that she made an empowered decision. But if a man turns down a perfectly acceptable partner because he's just not feeling it, he's a villain. Brad was whipped on everything from talk shows to blogs because viewers wanted him to take this woman and grow into that big love if he didn't feel it right from the start. They didn't want him to hold out for something better. Deanna, of course, got her own shot on The Bachelorette, but when she was down to her final 2 candidates, she chose the wacky snowboarder who wasn't sure he was ready to get married and have babies over the single dad who doted on her and who already lived the domestic life that she claimed she wanted so badly. Audience supported her decision to pick romance over practicality. For a woman, viewers seemed to think romance was more important. Never mind that Deanna later broke off her engagement. Any thoughts on that? Women, it's okay for her to not pick practical. There's the single dad who's like, I'm ready for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And she's like, I'll take the guy who doesn't have a job.
Yeah.
He just skates. He snowboards.
Yeah, I feel like we do that a lot. I don't know why we like just pick these, especially like it doesn't even like go hand in hand with each other. If you're talking about like, even if you do believe in like the guy, the one, the right one, why are you going with the homeless person?
Yeah,
Like,
great.
you know what I mean? Like,
But he has long hair and he plays the
Right,
guitar.
right.
He's always carrying his guitar case.
right,
I love him. God told
No.
me we're supposed to be together.
right, and so it's like, I don't know. You have two extremes of viewpoints, but they don't even mix and make sense with each other.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult. And I don't know. People can say it's sexist, but I don't know. I mean, that's sexist with what they did with the guy, where they were like, Deanna was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And then Deanna did, where she picked the obviously wrong choice. And people are like, oh, you get it, girl. Like, live your wildest dream. You find your Prince Charming.
I really think it boils down to something that she can't have. It's a guy who's not sure. Well, that's attractive to a girl. I need to win him over. And, I don't think I'm ready for marriage. And, he probably doesn't have a job,
Right.
but he snowboards and he has long hair and he plays the guitar, but he doesn't want to commit.
Right.
He has commitment issues. For
It's
some
definitely
reason.
intimidating getting with someone that knows what they want.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that from. I don't have that issue, but women do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some guys do too.
Right.
Why is that? You brought that up. Why?
So for me, whenever I started getting into more serious relationships, if a guy like went back and forth, I couldn't be the bad guy for going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But then when somebody was like sure what they wanted and they knew and they had the steps to take, it was like, oh God, this is real. This is happening. Wait, is this what I want? Am I ready to move forward? Am I not? Oh my God. And then there's this like moment of panic. And it's like, okay. And then you look at, okay, what did you do with that panic? And we've talked about this before. Yeah. Like, did you push through that panic and tell yourself like, no, this is what I want. This is what I deserve.
Yeah.
This is what I've worked for. This is what I've been looking for. Or do you take that moment of panic and just, drop it and run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had both happen.
Yeah.
And, I've had women talk through that and be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with right now. So I'm like, okay, here comes the pivotal moment. Okay, they're gonna say, I'm gonna do this no matter what, or they're going to drop me and run. And I've had both happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But the guy that doesn't want to commit, the guy that's not going to be serious right out the gate, for some reason, that's the one that the women want to pursue, and that's. And of course, The Bachelorette, it's all fake.
Right.
Like, none of that's real. So I can't be too hard on Deanna for going that route. But that is very realistic. That's what women go for. They go for that guy.
Something about like, I don't know. And especially for women that are smart, that are funny, that are, pretty. And like, I'm not saying, I don't know, people are beautiful, but like the stereotypical, like pretty, like superstar, supermodel, pretty, like those girls, it's, going after someone that's like unavailable is like almost something like more exhilarating and more fun.
Yeah.
And that's what causes that like spark.
Yeah.
That feeling of chasing and being chased and the cat and mouse game of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why going back to the beginning is like spark, ugh.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Right.
But that's what causes kind of that spark is that excitement, that adrenaline rush of like, oh, he's saying he's finally changing and da da da. Is he not? Oh, well, he still didn't get a job today, but he said he's going to do better tomorrow. And there's this like constant like exhilaration of never knowing what's next.
Yeah.
And so I think whenever you find a guy that knows what he wants, has his life planned out, knows the next steps, it's hard to feel that spark.
Yeah.
Like maybe an initial excitement, but then it dies so quickly because it's like all of a sudden you have the rest of your life planned out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I don't know if I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's great.
So I think that was like a perfect full circle moment right
Yeah.
there.
Well, unfortunately for the pacing of this, we got
I
one more
know.
paragraph.
I know.
Last one, though. See, real tiny. Okay. Earlier generations of women grew up on similar themes, but my generation and those after me have another set of conflicting messages to make sense of, too. What does it mean to be empowered and also want happily ever after? In other words, if feminism taught us that we don't really need the white knight, how do we reconcile that with the fact that many of us are women who want a husband and a family? If the fairy tale is to have it all, what does having it all even mean? And that's the end of chapter 2. Cool.
Do we have time to dissect that a little bit or not?
Oh,
really?
yeah, go ahead. What do you want to say?
I was just going to say, I think that being independent and empowered has been blemished by saying, like, there's a difference between needing someone and accepting the help of another person.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like if there's a heavy box that you're having trouble lifting and you can do it by yourself, but instead of straining yourself and potentially hurting your back, you have your friend help you. It doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing that and that you're not, that you're weak and that you're frail and that you're this and you're that. It's just like where there's help and the assistance available, you take it, and so it's like, I am capable to provide for myself. I'm capable to take care of myself. I am capable to buy my own things. But I enjoy being taken care of. I enjoy being provided for.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take away from my independence. It doesn't take away from my strength and me as a woman. But I don't know, if you're so stubborn headed and not even, ask for help just because you don't need it, like, are you really that strong and empowered as a woman if you can't, accept any form of help because you're so set on proving?
Yeah.
Why do you need to prove to everyone you're this like independent person? Like, just don't worry about it.
I think it goes back to women. There was a time, and I'm sure it still bleeds into today, where women weren't taken seriously. They weren't taken like you're not. They're not going to be a boss. They're not going to be in charge of something. There's that stigma of they're going to maintain the woman role. So I think a lot of that is overcompensation, where they have to appear like they can make their own decisions, they can be independent, and it kind of drives them to not ask for help, not do this and that, accept help from people because they want to have the same respect or whatever that they think a man has,
We're just not in that time period anymore.
I know, but
the people that are the guiltiest of doing that, like overbearing, I'm independent, are people that aren't from that generation when that was happening either.
I agree with you on that, but that's a whole nother discussion. Did it stop?
Yeah.
Okay. Recording?
Yeah.
Okay, one more time. 3, 2, 1. Close enough. I agree with you, but that's a whole nother discussion topic. Like the people that pull those cards were not around when actual sexism was happening.
Right.
And if you say otherwise, you're lying.
Right. And like, is there sexism out in the world? Yes.
Absolutely.
There always will be.
There's
but
a sexism,
are we in a
there's a racism.
sexist time period? No.
No. Really, no. There's a very good video. It's old. It's like 10, 12 years old now, where this board from a video game company, they're sitting and taking fan questions, and one lady, one very nice young woman, raised her hand and said, "How come there's so many men up there on this stage and no women?" Or one woman, I can't remember. But then the guy's like, "Hey, I would love to have a 2 and 2, but not enough women apply for the job. So I took the best applicant, and they happen to all be guys, like who applied, And then I think there was a woman up there, but I could be wrong. I have to go back and look. But like that's the reality of it.
Right.
Like there's not enough women applying for those jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then if you get so hyper focused on making sure it's even, that's how you're gonna get
turds
yeah.
in the country,
right.
I'm sorry, not the country. The company.
Like so like if you're trying to hire 10 people and you have 35 men apply and 2 women, and you just auto hire the 2 women to make
Right.
sure that you have women on board. Well, that's how you get the ditzy Doolittle women if you're just auto hiring them and
Right.
not even like filtering through who's
Wrong.
best for the thing.
Yeah.
And then that's how you get these like stereotypes of, well, women just don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Women don't,
I promise you that's how Kathleen Kennedy is running Star Wars. So with that, we should probably end it there. It's a good hour. What do you think?
I think so.
I think we killed it. Chapter 2. Hope you guys are enjoying this series, and I hope it continues forever until the book's over. So, all right. Thanks for tuning in this week. Whoops. Thanks for tuning in this week. Hope you guys had a great time. I think we can call it there. Did you have fun, Darcy? Was that a good chapter?
I did have fun. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
I feel like we got to do a good amount on that.
I was actually worried about this chapter because it had those plot summaries. I was like, how do I turn this into an episode? But I think we found a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat. So, all right. See y'all next time. Thanks for joining us. I hope you all had fun.
Guys.
See you later.